you want to know how deep I've gone down rabbit holes? I'm convinced that both of the world wars were really just to erase the old world, and that there was an entire narrative scripted around who the bad guys were, who the allies are, and it was really meant to just destroy all of these beautiful cities. They took out all of the bells. If you guys haven't looked into why there would be bells in public spaces and the healing properties and the harmonious properties that these churches and all the architecture was built in, okay, it's sacred geometry, and it's not unrealistic that they started 2 world wars and put, at the time, our best men in every single country lined up across each other because they wanted to take out the most brave and quote-unquote prestigious men.
As an American Jew, I have...
Hey, Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Lakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta. And what you just saw there was a clip from Their Works Are in the Dark, Part 2 from GMS Dedication. This was excellently put together, and you should check out the brothers' video if you get the opportunity. But what you heard there in the clip was a guy going into how he believes all the world wars were previously coordinated, and it was to bring in basically the new world or the new order in which the elite have set up. And I agree with him. I've read things about that as well, and you could look at the writings of Albert Pike. He wrote Morals and Dogma, and he also wrote this letter to Manzini in which it outlined the 3 world wars, and it is so close to what we have seen that it can't really be just taken out of the equation. People try to say that since he mentioned, I want to say it was socialism in it, that was before the time of the letter, so it couldn't be, but these are the people that control the world, and they put these thoughts and philosophies out into the world, so they could have already had that in store for the world, in which Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai has given the earth into the hands of the wicked being the self-proclaimed white man, including the small hatters, and they are of the nation of Edom. And that's who the earth is given into the hands of. That's why there's so much pollution and death and war and violence and theft and lies within this earth, because people like the guy on the screen are in charge. They have power within this world, and the Lord's coming to set that all straight. But in that clip also, that guy was going into how they had already set up the allegiances as well. They gave them different names. So in World War II, you had the Allies, which were America, UK, and various other European countries, and some others in there too. But then you also had, but they were basically the good guys, the winners. And as it says, or as people say, to history goes to the victor. I think it's something along those lines, but that's who writes history. It's the one that won. So they're always going to boost themselves up as the good guy. And then on the bad guy side, you had the axis of evil, and that was Germany and Japan, Russia eventually towards the end of it, because they kind of switched from being allies. And who else? Italy, Slovakia. I hadn't thought about this in a while, but you had the allies, and you had the axis of evil, and these are names that most likely were already pre-planned and given to them. And so I went and checked out or started looking up names for the new assembly of nations, the so-called bad guys again, and we've got the axis of upheaval. And so this is from Wikipedia. This is axis of upheaval is a term coined in 2024 by Center for a New American Security Foreign Policy analyst Richard Fontaine and Andrea Kendall Taylor, and used by many foreign policy analysts, military officials, and international groups to describe the growing anti Western collaboration between Russia, India, China, and North Korea. Beginning in the early 2020s, it has also been called the axis of autocracies, the quartet of chaos, kind of like that one, the deadly quartet, or CRINC, which appears to be an abbreviation for China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. It says the loose alliance generally represented itself in diplomatic addresses and public statements as an anti-hegemony and anti-imperialist coalition with intentions to challenge what is deemed to be a Western-dominated global order to reshape international relations into a multipolar order according to their shared interests. While not a formal bloc, these nations have increasingly coordinated their economic, military, and diplomatic efforts, making strong efforts to aid each other to undermine Western influence. And you see this here with the axis of upheaval. You also see it economically with BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. You see these different nations joining together to go against the Western nations. And we also see that World War III is forming, but it's not as organic as everyone thinks. The elite have had these things planned out for a long time. And as the guy in the clip was saying, he thought that the world wars were to put an end to the old worlds before it. And that's very similar how World War III is going to go down. They want to establish their NWO, or their fourth industrial revolution, which will be a technocracy where technology is all intertwined with humans and how we interact within the world. They want to put a micro chip into every single person on this earth so that they'll have control over them. And that's, if a person doesn't get it, you won't be able to buy or sell. And this is what they want to bring in because it's their grand enterprise that they've been working towards, being all these masons and the elite of the earth, which starts with the Rockefellers, and then starts with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, these really elite families on the earth. And their grand plan is to basically is for them to keep the birthright. This is all about the birthright, in which the Edomites, or Esau, lost the birthright to Jacob. He sold it to Jacob, and then Jacob also got the blessing. And ever since then, they've been all upset, all butthurt, and have taken it out on Jacob. Jacob being the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They've taken it out on us for a very long time. But we're coming to the time in which the Lord's going to deliver his people. And so they want to establish a new form of birthright in which they'll have the whole earth under their control. But to do that, they've got to get rid of the old world. But things aren't going to go as the elite think they're going to go. We'll stop that there. But things aren't going to go as planned because Yahweh Ba'Shem Al-Shai want to set up the kingdom of Israel, Yahweh Shai's kingdom, on this earth. And so we're going to start out here in Job 20. And verse 23, when he is about to fill his belly. So when they're about to establish their new world order, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So they're going to get a lot of this established, but not completely. They're not going to be able to micro hip the elect, and things aren't going to go as planned. It seems like these different countries are kind of wrestling as well to be the country that has the dominance in this new world that's coming. And he says when he's about to fill his belly. So they're going to get a lot established. They are going to be able to get the MOTB pushed out, and they're going to make it mandatory, but they're not going to get everybody, and they're not going to be able to escape the missiles when they come. Because I've heard a woman a while ago speaking of, and she was an insider, speaking of how the nukes are actually there to scare as a fear tactic, but Yahweh Shem El Shai says that they're going to go off, and they will go off. They're going to destroy America. They're going to destroy the land of Israel, and then various other parts of the earth. And this will be the second death it's spoken of in the scripts. It's going to be, which the first death was the flood, and the second death, so the flood's with water. The second death is going to be with fire, and it's going to be a way in which the earth will be cleansed. And these are going to go off. And right when they're thinking they're going to establish their enterprise, everything's going to go haywire. And things are already going haywire for them, and they're not working as they have in the past, especially their deception. As soon as they try something, it's found out almost immediately, because people don't trust the elite. They don't trust the Edomites anymore. They've worn out their welcome being in power. It says, he shall flee from the iron weapon. These are the missiles, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. Their headquarters, America, is going to be completely annihilated. Nobody's ever going to dwell here ever again. It's going to be an example of where wickedness dwelt, and to be not like that at all. But they're trying to get rid of the old world and then come in with their new world, kind of like their phoenix, in which they believe the phoenix rose from the ashes as a new creature. This is not going to happen for the Edomites. They had a temporary time to rule, and that time is coming to an end. No matter what they do, there's not one single thing that they could possibly do to remove their necks from the judgment that is coming. They've touched the apple of the Lord's eye, and the Lord is going to have these countries completely turn against each other and turn on them, and especially on to Babylon the Great, aka America. It's Jeremiah 50 and verse 8. Remove out of the midst of Babylon. Babylon's America. And this is similar to come out of her, my people. We're supposed to remove ties with this world that we're in, this temporary world that we're in. Get out of the Western frame of thought and back to the way that our forefathers thought. It says, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans are basically the sorcerers of the Syro-Babylonian Empire. And they were sorcerers back then, and this place, America, is built on witchcraft. The founding fathers were all Masons. And you see symbology of this on the dollar in Washington, D.C., and throughout the movies and entertainment that's here within America. This place is built on witchcraft. And it says, and be as the he goats before the flocks. And so if we're the Lord's men, we're to lead his elect, teach the prophecies, teach of the scriptures, and especially of the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, to give our people a shot at deliverance. But that's all pre-written. The ones that are supposed to get it will get it. It says, "For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country." So this is led by Gog of Magog, or Russia. And he's going to have his bands, his different troops, or as said here, his assembly of great nations that he's going to be a guard unto. And we just saw the axis of upheaval with Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea. They're all assembled together. And the elite have already given them a bad guy name. But they're still the bad guys because they're heathen, but it's a good thing what they're doing. The Lord has his hooks in the jaws of the Russians currently, especially Vladimir Putin, and he's driving them to eventually shoot off the nukes onto America. And that's a good thing because America, Babylon the Great, is completely evil and wicked, and it's corrupted the whole earth with their thoughts and with their theft and robbery and with their lies. It's different dumb philosophies that get pushed around. They've corrupted everything. And so this place being put on fire is a really good thing. It says, "And they shall set themselves in array against her," all in battle formation against America. "From thence she shall be taken, their arrows shall be as the mighty expert man." And these missiles, they're called arrows because that's what our forefathers were able to come up with that's closest to a missile. It says, "None shall return in vain," because they're going to have the Spirit of the Lord on them, and all of them are going to hit their mark. "And Chaldea shall be a spoil, all that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage," in which the Edomites, so-called white man, and the small hatters took the children of Israel into captivity and stole our land and took over our identity, calling themselves the Lord's people, calling themselves the true Christians. They're not that. They are hated of the Lord. It says, "Because ye are grown fat as the heifers at grass, they've gotten very rich, and bellow as bulls, and prideful," with all that wealth and winning. They've been winning for a long time, but their time of winning is coming to a close with the greatest example, the greatest sorrow any nation's ever going to feel. It's going to be double what we got. And we had a terrible captivity under the Edomites, and they're going to have much, much, much worse captivity under the Israelites, because they will go into slavery under the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And then skipping down to verse 14, it says, "Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about." So get ready to shoot nukes onto Babylon. Get ready for war with Babylon. In Joel 3, it says, "Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the nations draw near." War is coming. And it's definitely going to come. The third woe cometh quickly. It'll be here soon. And there's even, the battle lines are already being drawn. You have the axis of upheaval. And then you're pretty much going to have, on the other side, you're going to have Babylon, you're going to have America and Israel fighting together. Because even the NATO nations are going to leave the side of America, because America is just too proud and making bad decisions which are hurting her allies. It says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, everybody that's nuclear capable. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. They touched the apple of the Lord's eye, and they've committed great blasphemy by taking these books onto themselves and then pushing out their lies from there. There is a huge judgment to be had, and they're going to get it because it's written of. World War III is not going to go as the elite have it planned to go. They're going into slavery. When all the dust and smoke is cleared, they will be in chains. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Chakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.